This is the Horror Movie Show on hmpod.com, hosted by Jerry and Mark, your one-stop shop for all horrible movie reviews. From the latest blockbusters and independent films to classics, let Mark and Jerry convince you the world is a dangerous place, though often good for a laugh. Now come and listen to the Horror Movie Show, if you dare.
Hey there, folks. Jerry here.
And Mark.
Bringing you another episode of the Horror Movie Show on hmpod.com and The Crypt and iTunes and Lord knows where else we are. But we're everywhere. Everywhere.
Yes, as they say, we're everywhere. We're everywhere.
Yes, and nowhere
to be seen.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, we don't really exist. So we've got bags of stuff to talk about today. We're going to start with our favorite zombie TV show, at least on AMC, The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
I had to narrow it down there because there is a very good English zombie show.
There are some other shows. Did you know that they're doing From Dawn Till Dusk? There's a new show.
Yeah.
With Rodriguez directed the first couple and wrote the first couple shows. Right. Not a bad series.
I haven't seen any of it.
It's very odd. It's like Quentin Tarantino was in there as well.
Right.
It has that feel where you have a lot of dialogue between different sets of people, and it's all interesting dialogue.
Right.
But it's very intelligently written, and you're looking forward to what's going to happen here. And it all's got to do some sort of serpent snake cult.
Right. That was in the first movie.
It's not vampires. It's some sort of snake cult because their fangs are long and curved.
And probably venomous.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very venomous.
Yeah.
It's a really cool series.
Salma Hayek in the very first movie, she has a transformation where she appears to be snake-like.
I can't remember much about the movie. I remember I enjoyed it.
It's good. George Clooney and Quentin Tarantino are the criminal brothers. And the only thing that I did read about this TV adaptation is that the two actors playing those roles are nowhere near as good. But I mean, Clooney and Tarantino.
They're pretty damn good.
Good. Well, I'm glad to hear. Yeah. No, I take with a grain of salt anybody's criticism, as people should.
If you're going to compare them to Clooney. Yeah, okay.
Because he is like God, isn't he?
Yes, but
he's so
at the
handsome.
same time, these guys are pretty damn good.
Good. Well, I mean, George Clooney is just so damn handsome.
Yeah. Well, he was Batman.
Yeah. Briefly. Okay, folks, so do bear in mind that, as always, when we're talking about The Walking Dead, there will be spoilers. So if you haven't seen the show, or if you're in England or some other backwoods country.
I don't think so.
Hey, Gina. Well, they're like a whole year behind. They're a whole season behind. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. I'm
then they'll
why.
forget what we're talking about anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
For those with only short-term memory,
like us. Okay, so we're talking about the last 3 episodes of season 4. And we're going to begin with 3 episodes ago, the one about the little girls.
It's called The Grove.
The Grove.
The 14th
It's probably the single saddest episode that they had.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was watching a little girl trying to cope with something she couldn't cope with.
No, she's mad. She's gone insane.
And she's gone, she's literally gone insane.
Absolutely bat crap
and
crazy.
Her younger sister, who seems to have adapted quite nicely, is trying to convince her, Lizzie
is the mad girl.
And Mika.
Yeah.
Poor Mika tries to convince her sister that you gotta act normally.
Yeah. Well, they've been struggling with the older girl's inability to understand what the zombies were. Yeah. She thinks that they're just different.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't have any racial problems, so why should she have species problems?
Well, really?
Yeah. She wants
Unfortunately, to her detriment, she puts people at risk.
Yeah, she does. Yes.
To the point where...
Killing people. Yeah. At the end of that episode, she's murdered her sister.
Yeah, and then...
Because but it's okay. She says, it's all right. I didn't damage her brain.
Yeah.
And she expects her sister to come back... And then they can play games run around
then
the trees.
She'll show them. She'll show them that she's right.
Yeah.
Carol and Tyrese are mortified.
Oh, of course.
And unfortunately, Carol is put into that position again of putting somebody down.
Yeah.
A mercy killing?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you... Yeah, I suppose you'd call it a mercy killing.
But because
the only alternative is to turn the kid loose.
Yeah.
And eventually she'll be a zombie and maybe she'll be happy.
Unfortunately, she was at the point where they couldn't trust her anymore.
No.
There was no coming back from her insanity.
Well, yeah, I mean, apart from themselves, baby Judith was also at risk.
Yes. They thought they could settle down at an abandoned house.
Oh, they were playing...
Carol and Tyrese.
Yeah.
Carol finally confesses to Tyrese her killing of his girlfriend. He
forgives her.
He forgives her, and it takes a while for him. He's sitting there shocked.
Yeah.
Then it goes... You can see it in his head, that he's thinking it through, that there was really nothing she could have done. She was...
acting in good faith.
She was protecting the group.
Yeah, I don't know if she was protecting the group, but she was acting in good faith. Like, she wasn't doing it out of maliciousness or viciousness. She was doing it because she believed that was the best thing.
And I think he actually saw that she was tormented because she did this. So it wasn't like she had no feelings about it, and that he could see that her torment was as big as his torment about the situation. And at that point, he figured, well, he had to forgive her.
Right.
Which was really touching scene.
Oh, it was.
That whole episode was so...
It was harsh.
Yeah, it was very draining.
That's why this series needs a laugh track. It needs to lighten up a little bit.
That one you couldn't really make fun of.
I'm kidding. This is the grimmest season yet. One of the grimmest TV series I've ever seen. The last couple of episodes, the last 3 episodes have been the grimmest so far.
Yeah, it's funny because this whole last half of this season has been them going from the prison over to where they hope is some sort of sanctuary.
Yeah.
It's all the little trips and asides and people discovering things about themselves.
And meeting up, coming back together.
And dealing with different situations.
Yep.
It's just the whole second half is a traveling movie.
It is.
It's just going. They're on the road and they're always moving. And if they do stop for a while, with optimism that maybe they can stop, they are sadly disappointed that they cannot stop.
It's a horrible, horrible world they're in, and there seems to be no sanctuary.
Yeah. And in the next show called Us, the 15th show, Glenn and Maggie finally meet up.
Right.
And the smile on her face.
Isn't she beautiful?
Lauren
Cohen.
She was so happy.
I'm madly in love with Lauren.
That look on her face when she finally sees him, and he's just gone through hell.
Yeah.
And he figures he's going to die because he's trying to rescue the other girl.
Yeah, he won't let
Tara.
He won't walk away from her.
No matter what. And she's stuck. Her foot is trapped under a rock.
Trapped ankle. She's screaming at him to go, and he just won't because that's Glenn. Glenn's just naturally a hero.
But how many times during the season where you think that there's no way out, and all of a sudden, bang, bang, bang,
there's always somebody coming up behind.
Rifles are flaring, and next
well, it's either somebody coming to rescue you or somebody coming to eat you. But, I don't think, apart from the kids, I don't think we lost any of the regular group this year. I think everybody who made it out of the prison at the end of the first half of this season 4, everybody has made it to the end of the season. The last episode is Rick,
Carl, and Michonne.
Right, and who
they meet up with the good old boys.
And
Daryl.
Oh my goodness, yes, Daryl has been traveling since he lost Maggie's sister, Beth. She just vanished in a car.
Still it's
no
funny.
Idea where she is.
That's funny when people ask what happened to her. He never says she vanishes in a car. He just says he lost her.
Yeah,
she's gone.
And she was eaten. She's just gone.
Yeah.
But, there was only one moment where he says that. We'll have to wait and see. I'm sure he would fill.
As far as I know, zombies can't drive. I would say she's with another
Well, they
group.
can only drive in a straight line. They're like... They're no good if you give them directions.
They have to make a curve, forget it.
No left turns.
A lot of people can't do a left turn.
That's what I mean, Zombies are bad drivers. But at the very last episode, just harrowing. So you have the 3 of them, Michonne, Carl, and Rick, and they're bedding down for the night. Next thing you know, this gang of cutthroats I mean, I thought they were like hooligans, maybe bikers, but these guys are really savage animals.
Yeah.
And Daryl has fallen in with them because he looks like one of them with his biker colors and all that on the back of his jacket.
And his bow.
And he's obviously been a hunter all his life.
Yeah.
But they're hunting Rick because he killed one of their group in the house.
And I love
And they just need an excuse to hunt the guy.
Because it's really silly because they didn't say, well, we were invading his space. We would have found him. We would have killed him anyway.
Of course they would have eaten him, probably.
Yeah. It's like, okay, you killed one of them, but at the same time, that's for survival.
Yeah.
Why holding a grudge?
I know. Because it's just an excuse. These are just animals who are full of hate and spite and looking for an excuse. What's our next thing? Well, let's hunt this guy who killed
And they
Bob.
sure turn on their own real quick.
Oh, yes.
You lied?
Yeah.
Oh, well, let's beat the crap out of you and we're going to kill you.
Yeah, well, the leader, the swine who's running that pack, he's keeping everybody in line with his little rules, but his rules are just for his convenience.
Mm-hmm.
And they're bent and broken and discarded whenever he needs to torture somebody. So, they're beating the crap, and I must say, the most ineffectual beating is laid on Daryl, considering what maniacs these guys are. Daryl's got a couple of little bruises and
there were
cuts,
3 of them wailing on him.
Yeah, and you'd think that
he would have a smashed jaw or something.
Yeah, he wouldn't be able to move. But no, he's in pretty good shape.
Well, he does have a few cuts and bruises on his face.
Yeah, he looks like he...
But then I've seen Rick get beaten to pulp out of as well.
I did the first episode of the second half of this season. He was in such bad shape that he passes out and more or less is in a coma for
a while.
36 hours.
Yeah.
That's when Carl goes off on his own and is telling his dad he doesn't need him and he can die and it won't matter to Carl and so on. Doing that lovely teenage boy thing.
What did you think of the flashback with Herschel?
Oh, that's lovely, isn't it? It's nice to see that guy back again. The brief respite that Rick and company had in the prison, it seemed like they might actually have found their own sanctuary. They might have made a peaceful life for themselves.
Right.
Of course, that didn't last very long.
Poor governor.
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering now because Rick and Michonne and Daryl and Carl, they make it to Terminus and they're smart enough to go to sneak in a side door.
Yeah.
However, they're dumb enough to fall right into the trap. These very capable Terminus people.
They sure used a lot of bullets to
they
hurt them.
They have a lot of bullets.
Yeah, they were hurting them. You could tell. I mean, they were hitting the ground in front of them, and so they would turn.
Oh yes, they're just directing them. They weren't trying to kill them. The question is, are the people running Terminus, are they cannibals? Are they... To me, it's very, very menacing whenever any hostile force uses railroad cars, because that just makes me think of the Nazis and sending people to Auschwitz and Dachau.
Well, while they were running, they went through a few yards with bones.
Yeah.
And they looked like they were human bones. They were just bones.
And at one point they run into like a big area, like a gymnasium, a big hall. And there are slogans painted on the wall. And I got a real Jim Jones Guyana vibe off that. Like, these people are fanatical. They're mad as hatters, and they're doing whatever to preserve their own lives at cost of anybody else's.
I'm kind of wondering.
They're cult.
Yeah, are they cannibalistic?
Right.
Are they keeping them in the train just to have a larder of,
exactly.
of people?
Yeah. And there is the possibility. I mean, I think we'd all agree that they're probably hostile. However,
they let them keep their weapons.
Yeah. At the very beginning, they were playing them. Rick spotted Glenn's watch, which was Herschel's watch,
and somebody was wearing a piece of clothing. From one of them. Now, did you notice that one of these people was actually Denise Crosby?
Yes, the old lady who was doing the cooking.
Yeah.
She greets, at the end of the last episode, she greets Maggie and Glenn and the rest of them.
And you'd remember her from the Star Trek The Next Generation.
Yeah, absolutely. She was Tasha Yar.
Yeah.
She voluntarily left that show, and to make sure that character couldn't come back, they killed her.
And then they brought her back anyway.
Yes, and then she came back as her
evil twins,
her evil twin
or
from the
clone
alternate.
Or something.
That's right. It was her own daughter. It was the daughter.
Isn't she a Romulan or something?
Yes, it was half Romulan. It was half Romulan. She was the daughter of Tasha in the alternate universe.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes, because Picard had saved their ship and Yeah. That's right. It's something weird like that. Anyway, yeah, so it's good. I've been enjoying it. It seemed a little bit slow. A lot of people have been calling it the boring dad, which I thought was funny.
Well, it's not boring, but it's not,
Well, it was a little slow there.
I think
gathering the crowd back together.
I think what it was is that the plot hasn't really progressed too much.
No.
There's a lot of soul searching, a lot of resolution of a problem each person has.
Oh, Michonne, for example, we got a good look at her past because we knew very little about Michonne, and right up until the final episode this season, now we know more about Michonne. That in fact she went a long time, like a year or more, just invisible, traveling with her.
We get a lot of background on her.
It was her boyfriend and a friend.
Yeah.
So her brother, which I think it was in the comic, her brother doesn't enter into it. It's her boyfriend and a friend of theirs.
And they let somebody die.
Yeah, they were high, she says.
Yeah.
And so when the zombies overran, that's when her
daughter, I think it was her daughter.
Was it a little boy?
Or was it a boy?
I think it's a little boy. And so she punishes them because instead of finishing them off after they've been bitten, she cripples them, and it's only then that she learns that can make her invisible.
Yeah.
She chains them to herself and starts wandering. Yeah, and then it was Laurie Holden's character that she ran into who brought her back to humanity. Now, the question I have as far as the last episode, and now I've forgotten. Oh, yes. Who's left outside to rescue them? Because almost the whole group of survivors has been captured by these Terminus people. But you have Tyrese and Carol and, of course, Beth, and we don't know where Beth is. Beth may be poop by now.
Yeah.
but we have Tyrese and Carol.
Poop?
Well, she could have been eaten. But we have Tyrese and Carol who are still outside the fence. Now, were they on their way to Terminus? I believe they were, right?
Yeah.
There wasn't anywhere else to go.
They were traveling again.
Yeah, and they've got baby Judith.
Yes.
Who'd be a tasty snack.
A nice light snack.
A little midnight meal. You make soup out of a baby. That's what I understand.
No, it would be like a nice roast.
Yeah. And it's already stuffed.
Anyway.
So I would expect that there will be...
and why weren't there any other people in that car other than the group?
Well, they're the latest ones to show up. They were the little group that was in the prison. So now you've got everybody, including Tara, and also, of course... I didn't see the genius. I didn't see the supposed scientist in the group. The sergeant was there. We saw the sergeant.
Right.
And, of course, Glenn and Tara and Meg.
And, of course, the way they did that when they went into the box car, you can't see any of them. They're not making any noise.
No.
They're in the dark. Yeah, and then it's not until they shut the door and suddenly they're there.
But I can't believe that they've killed the scientist, because I would hate for that storyline to just vanish, because he was going to be the savior of the last of humanity.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of Revolution. They have this. It's another show that had all electricity stopped.
Right.
And there's a scientist that knew why and all this stuff. And it kind of reminded me of that plot line.
There's always somebody like that. The Dome had a plot like that running through it at one point, didn't they? Where somebody knew. Oh, yeah, well, the kids knew about the egg.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess we'll leave it at that. When we come back in October for more episodes of The Walking Dead, I expect that there'll be some sort of rescue from outside and fight from within.
Yeah.
But, unless these people are just trying to calm the captors.
We still don't know the motivation of these people, other than trying to contain people that are not
part of their
cult. Group.
Yeah.
They could have animals in other places in that place. They could,
those could be animal bones
conceivably,
and guts.
They know how to hunt.
Yeah.
Why eat humans when there are deers running around?
Yeah, but if you can convince food to come to you.
And that reminds me of that movie we watched.
The
Road and the one we just recently watched, Hell.
Yes.
Hell was very much like that.
Yeah. Hell was a rip-off of The Road. I said that when we reviewed
Yes, you did. But at the same time, there are signs, there's rumors going around that there's water in the hills, so everyone's heading for the hills, right to this little group of people who are eating them. Yeah. This is much the same thing. They have all these signs along the railway saying, hey, come on down.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Instead of going out and hunting deer and putting yourself at risk of being jumped by a herd of zombies,
wouldn't
you if you don't mind being a cannibal, you bring people.
Yes, if
to
you don't mind, you got to get a bunch of people of like mind to be with you, though.
Huh?
Everybody has to agree that they want to eat people.
Yeah. Well, that's it. But if they're nuts, if they're a lunatic cult, then, they have their own rules.
Well, we'll see.
You go to the Bible,
I'm
for
hoping
example.
they're not a lunatic cult.
Oh, I think they are. Considering the slogans that they had scribbled on the walls of their gymnasium.
Yeah, that happened very quickly. They ran through there.
Yeah, but one of the slogans was, us before others and stuff like that. I mean, it just sounds really, really creepy.
Yeah, the Nazi Aryan race.
Just the survivalist instinct. And they obviously, as you say, they got bullets to spare. While I was watching that got me to thinking, probably the most useful thing you'd be able to do would be to make your own ammunition. You wouldn't be able to make a gun, but you could certainly, it's not that difficult to make your own ammunition.
Is it? The lead points, how difficult is that to make?
You can pour lead. Lead is easy to work with. Lead is.
And then you have to manufacture your gunpowder.
Yeah, it's not impossible.
No, it's not. It's not impossible, but you have to know what you're doing.
Well, I couldn't do it, but if I had a book and some time to practice, I could do it.
Yes, there you go.
It isn't difficult.
All you do is make a little hole in an orange, and you pour some lead in, and you got yourself a pit.
A cannonball. Yeah, right.
Make a musket.
Yeah.
There you go. Musket.
Well, it's a shame that Daryl wasted that tank.
Oh, yeah.
The governor's tank. All right, let's leave The Walking Dead. They're in a terrible pickle, and they're going to be stuck in that train car for 8 months.
Boy, are they going to reek.
They're going to be really skinny, too. They're not going to be worth eating.
Yeah, then they're not going to want to eat them at all. They're going to smell like that.
Anyway, you can't blame these people for wanting barbecue. So I touched on the reboot of RoboCop a couple of episodes ago. Now Mark has seen it. We're going to talk a little bit about the new RoboCop and also the 1987 RoboCop and how they compare. So the new one is directed by Jose Padilla, written by Joshua Zatumer. It stars Joel Kinnaman as Officer Alex Murphy, Gary Oldman as Dr. Dennett Norton, Michael Keaton as the big boss of the company, Raymond Sellers. Abby Cornish is the love interest, Clara Murphy. Jackie Earle Haley is Rick Maddox, sort of a mercenary working for Keaton. Michael K. Williams is Jack Lewis, and Samuel L. Jackson as Pat Novak. As opposed to the 1987 RoboCop, directed by Paul Verhoeven and written by Edward Neumeier and Michael Miner, starring Peter Weller. And right off the bat, I have to say the cast of the original is far superior, far more fun to watch the original cast.
That's the
bad guys in the original
are
a lot more fun.
That's it.
Yeah.
There is no humor in this one.
Very little. Yeah.
And the only humor is when they're making references to the other movie, and they only made a couple of those.
Yeah.
I'd buy that for $1.
Yeah.
Came up once.
Yeah.
But that was a reoccurring thing on the TV.
Oh, yeah.
Of the original.
Plus, it was just a slogan. Emile.
It was a comedy show, some sort of
it was a game show.
Game show. That's it.
Yeah.
And that's the tagline.
Yeah.
So everybody.
Maybe it was a sitcom. It was a sitcom, and the character with the mustache would say, "I'd buy that for $1."
Yeah, usually talking about women.
But also Emile would say it. One of Clarence Boddicker's gang members. He said that once or twice.
Now you see, the original had that gang. Mm-hmm. There was really no gang in this one. At least it didn't concentrate.
It's corporate criminals.
It's really all about the corporation trying to convince the government to repeal this legislation that prevented them from having completely robot cops in the United States.
In Detroit.
For all United States.
Yeah.
Everywhere else in the world, they've adopted these robot cops, except for the U.S.
Right.
Because at least one senator put forward that they don't feel. They can't feel compassion. No. They can't feel wrong and right.
Right.
So they should not be able to kill a person.
Shouldn't be trusted to make that life and death decision.
Right. Michael Keaton character, head of Omnicorp, he's losing billions of dollars because he can't sell his robots in the States.
Yeah.
So he decides, hey, well, let's put a human inside a robot and see if it works.
That is just not that dissimilar to the original.
Oh, well, they had the prototype, but the RoboCops weren't working well. The big tank thing?
No. The Peter Weller character, he was the first RoboCop. That was an alternate company plan. That was like Plan B.
Right.
So Plan A, which is the fully big robot things, they're just not working well. The test in the boardroom kills one of the executives.
Yeah.
So the big boss, the old man, says, all right, Plan B, you're on. And that's when Miguel Ferrer gets to go ahead and find a quote-unquote volunteer, which is,
Yeah, and I love that character of Miguel's in that original movie. They don't have anything like that in this one.
No, the characters are so flat.
There's no slimy businessman,
Well, Michael Keaton is, but but he's the boss.
But he's just trying to make a buck. He's just like any other corporate.
No. He's horribly ruthless. He's a murdering swine.
Do you think?
Oh, of course he is. Yeah. No, he's the one to blame for virtually everything that terrible that happens.
And the other thing that they don't concentrate on in the new movie is the how Detroit has fallen on really bad times, and crime is controlling the whole city. Yeah. And they have to dig themselves out of it. And there's no new multiplex that they want to build or anything like that.
And the thing about Verhoeven as a director is that he put subtext. He's complicated the story. There's many levels to it. And Ed Neumeier and Michael Miner, the writers, they've made it a very dense story. It's it's not just about the RoboCop program. It's about modern life and it falling apart and the desperation. The new one is pretty much an adventure story.
That's what it is.
There's no detail. There's no depth to the story. It's just
there is a reason for that. Turns out the director,
Jose Padilla,
9 out of 10 of his ideas were rejected by the film company.
Right.
The film company took control of the film when he went over budget.
Right.
It was supposed to be a $60 million film. He was up to 120.
Holy moly!
So they took control. And they re-edited the whole thing. Right. They took out all the stuff that he wanted to do.
Oh, so they simplified it.
They simplified it drastically.
All right, I won't blame the director then. But
that's the sad thing is that you read these things after the fact that
it could have been a better movie.
Yeah, the director wanted to go a completely different way, and they reined him in.
Right.
And the director was heard to be said by somebody listening in on a conversation to one of his pals that this is the worst thing he's ever done.
Right.
This is the worst time he's ever had in making a movie. Yeah. And it's his first American movie. He's a Brazilian director.
Yeah, Portuguese name.
So the studio basically screwed this
up. Right.
He screwed up by going over budget.
Yeah, way over budget.
They screwed up by taking control of the project.
Right. I mean, you can't blame the studio executives when the guy has gone double what you've agreed to.
Yeah.
That sounds like he's kind of incompetent, like he can't manage his movie.
Yeah, definitely. They didn't have obviously...
this is such an old story. I know Orson Welles got screwed again and again and again by the money men, producers and studios and so on. Yeah, like I say, it's an old story. It's happened.
Now, the way I look at it is the new version is sort of more of a retake of Frank Miller's RoboCop comic. He rewrote the thing like Batman. He rewrote the RoboCop kind of thing in a comic form.
Right.
And I think they
Frank Miller ever come up with anything original?
He did. He's the one that did Sin City.
Yeah, okay, but that's just a reimagining of
Pulp Fiction was like that too. Everything Quentin Tarantino does is like that. So
but
and Rodriguez he redoes old stuff.
But I'm just asking. I don't know a lot about Frank Miller, but I mean he's given credit for rebooting Batman, and I think he's messed with Superman and.
That was
Spider-Man?
No, as far as I know.
Okay.
He does a lot of dark series.
Yeah, I know. That's his thing. He takes an old character and he makes it hideous and monstrous and adds in a lot more death. And for that he's hailed as a genius.
And I think you hit it right on the note with the RoboCop remake in that it's just an action movie.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah, no, I would recommend it to someone who just wants to stay in on a Friday night and watch a fun movie.
I had no trouble with the movie.
Yeah.
It's just that the original is not the same movie.
No, it's a great movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. You and our friend Lawrence and I went to see that one afternoon when it was brand new in the theater, and we were all very impressed at the time. I mean, it's no Blade Runner, but it's pretty darn good.
That director, I mean, I've always been
Verhoeven.
a fan. When he did
Starship Troopers?
Yeah. I watch that every couple of years, and I enjoy it so much.
Yeah. Best thing Casper Dean's ever done.
Yeah, and the special effects are they're flawless.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And,
the two RoboCop sequels were mediocre at best.
I don't remember them at all. I don't even know if I've seen them.
The only thing that I liked in the first sequel, RoboCop 2, was when they're showing the video footage of the next two RoboCop experiments, and one of them shoots itself and the other pulls its own head off. It's just like, oh, no. Alex Murphy was special that he didn't go batshit crazy and
I remember
and pull his
that.
own head off.
And they made that the head of the corporation, the evil guy, where in the first movie he was just sort of...
Yeah, they make the old man the villain in the second one. It was very weird.
Yeah. That was disappointment.
Well, that's sequelitis, the first one was so good and made so much money that the money men say, well, we have to make a sequel. But Verhoeven had nothing to do with it. Peter Weller was in the second one, but he said, all right, that's it. No more free money for me, and he got out. And there was a second actor in the third movie.
Well, with this reboot, and I guess you can call it a reboot.
Well, it isn't a remake specifically.
It's sort of like a streamlined version of the original, with only parts of the original in it, and just made more action-y. I agree with you. I mean, if you like action, it's a good movie.
Yeah, it's fun.
And it's actually more of a...
And if you've never seen the original, you'll probably like this a lot more.
Yeah.
But if you're a big fan of the original, it's hard to divorce. I find it hard to divorce myself from a remake of a movie that I really like.
Yeah.
It's just tough.
I'd really consider them two different movies and just keep them apart from one another.
Yeah.
Because they are definitely...
Best way to enjoy the new one.
Yeah.
Same thing, the so-called prequel to John Carpenter's The Thing. Everything that's great in the prequel, the new movie, is a direct reference to John Carpenter's version.
Right.
So where did it add anything?
No.
To the thing?
Nothing.
It just didn't. And this movie adds nothing. But it's fun to watch. The effects are good and the action is there, and
you did feel for the RoboCop character.
Yeah, they tried to make him human right from the start. Like his memory really isn't blanked.
No,
in this one.
That was the other difference
compared to the original.
Yeah, the original they tried to blank his mind.
He's product. He's called product.
Yeah. And whereas this one, they wanted him to be a person.
Yes, they needed him to be a person because that was the argument against the robots.
I did find the storyline kind of interesting in how they perfected him to be the marksmanship and all of his skills.
Yes.
They combined him and let the program override him and made him think he was doing it. I thought that was very interesting.
That's where Gary Oldman's character is interesting, but he's underused. He probably had a lot more. If we ever see the director's cut, there was probably a lot more with him. And also, I think, probably a lot more with Samuel L. Jackson, who I also thought was wasted in this movie.
Yeah.
Just didn't need to have such a great actor.
No. Yeah, but it's always nice to see them.
Oh, I know. I love them. I love both those guys. But,
There was a lot more to do with the science behind RoboCop in the second one. And I enjoyed some of the things that they brought out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's talk about a movie that, a little movie, but one that has been getting a lot of promotion on the Crypt. It's a 2013 movie called The Den, directed by Zachary Donohue, written by Zachary and Lauren Thompson. It stars the lovely Melanie Papalia as Elizabeth Benton. Here's a name, David Schlachtenhaufen as Damien. I think he may be German.
You think?
Matt Reedy as Sergeant Tisbert and Adam Shapiro as Max. I liked it. I thought this was a fun movie. I quite enjoyed it. It's a sort of
found footage kind of movie, except for done a different way.
Yes, it's found footage looking through, like from the camera's point of view, because what The Den is we're seeing a lot of these movies.
Social networks.
Yeah, exactly. It's about Facebook, specifically Facebook, Twitter, Imgur, all those sorts of things, Instagram. Why don't you tell us what it's about, Marco?
Well, a young woman has decided she wants to do a study of this particular website called The Den, and it's a social network thing. And she puts forth this thing that she'll stay on the
proposal for a grant.
Yeah, from a university.
Yeah.
And she says, "Oh, I'll go on there for 2 months and I'll see where it goes, and I'll record everything that happens."
Yeah.
And so
6 months.
Whatever. I don't know.
Long time.
So she starts recording.
She sees it as a sort of a microcosm. She sells it to her bosses at the university, the people who will decide whether or not she gets grant money, as a sort of a study overview of society. This is a good example of people online. And what The Den is, more than anything else, now I should explain it, is the chat roulette.
Yes.
It's chat roulette, even more than Facebook, although there's a social aspect to it.
You can actually contact people and specifically, or if they're online, you can see they're online if you friend them or whatever.
But the chat roulette and the Den have in common that every second person online is a guy with his pants off.
Yeah.
Which is done to comic effect. It's a graphic movie. I wouldn't recommend this movie for kids.
It's your camera view of this movie is you're looking at her screen.
You're looking through her screen.
Yeah, at her. Well, yeah, but that's what she sees on her screen too, because she can see herself on her screen, and you can see little windows popping up that maybe somebody you're chatting with.
Right.
There'll be a chat window where you can do some typing. And there's video chats all over the place. So you can chat with a number of different
multiple screens
people at the same time, actually. There's this button to go to the next person if you want to meet new people. And that's where a little bit of the comedy comes in.
Some funny.
You know, the way they're portrayed, these people, they're just sitting there waiting for somebody, waiting for somebody, and then, they'll have a cardboard sign. Yeah. And as soon as they look at you and they see you, then they'll raise their sign and say, "Show me your boobies."
Yes.
And then right away, click, next person.
Yeah, next, yeah.
At the beginning of the movie, there's a cheap scare with this little kid saying, there's somebody in my closet.
Right.
There's a monster in my closet.
Yeah.
And of course, the beauty behind having a laptop rather than a desktop is that you can carry it around.
Yes, the kid takes it away.
The kid takes it into his closet, and they're looking around, and of course, somebody appears behind him, and it's a cheap scare.
Yeah, but it's effective. Sets her up.
After a couple days, she's being watched, and somebody hacks her system and has control of her accounts.
Yeah.
They got her email, they've got her camera, they've got
keyboard, everything.
Yeah. They take control. So when she's not watching, they're doing things.
Yeah.
They're recording her lovemaking session. They're emailing her friends. They're chatting with her friends.
Even before that, though, Elizabeth's character is shown what appears to be a murder. A young woman getting her head slammed on a desk and her throat cut. And so she's horrified by this, and she begins to contact the authorities. And the police, of course, don't believe her. There's nothing they can do.
Yeah, even though she is recording everything that's on her screen.
Yeah.
Which is another funny thing about that, because, why can't she see the guy taking control of her machine if she's recording everything on her machine?
Got to get that antivirus software in there.
Yeah, no kidding.
Spyware.
Anyway, she takes the video footage over to the police, and they say, well, it looks real, but we can't prove that it is real, so we're not going to do anything.
Yeah.
It goes on like that, and the point where, her friends are disappearing because they're being lured by fake emails and fake chats to go to her place when she's not there, or go to some other place where she's not there, and
they're getting either murdered right there, or they're being kidnapped and even more horribly tortured.
Things escalate. There's a big twist at the very end, which I thought was very clever.
Yeah, I just thought it, scores all the way along. For a low-budget movie, it's very well done.
It was interesting because you just didn't know what was going to happen next.
Right.
Now, there were a few flaws in it. I mean, geez, if you've been hacked, first thing I'd do if I knew it was hacked is I'd put a piece of tape over my camera.
Yeah, right.
And second of all, I would get it wiped and re-established and put up some good firewalls.
Well, the bad guy does that to her. The bad guy erases her hard drive at one point, absolutely blanks it, so that any evidence that she has recorded up to that point is gone.
Yes.
And her friend, who's a bit of a computer expert himself, he says, I hope to God, tell me you backed everything up. And no.
Yeah.
No, everything is gone.
Yeah.
But by then she doesn't care that her work is gone. What she cares about is there seems to be a complete and utter maniac stalking her.
And how big that maniac is. I mean, you find out that it's not just one guy.
No.
There's lots of people involved.
Yeah,
so,
it's a complicated story. So, I would, full marks to Zachary and also Melanie. I thought she did a terrific job.
It was very realistic. I mean,
it was nicely done.
It's like really watching people on video chat.
Yeah.
You know, these people are kids.
Yeah.
They're young. They use all the shortcuts for the words and all that stuff. And I am not involved in that at all. I do not like doing that kind of stuff.
Right.
But I could appreciate the slickness of it all.
The style
and they really did a nice job on it.
They did.
Other than the fact that, when she knew she was hacked, she didn't do very much
No,
about
I know.
it.
She could have done more.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. And I think we got time for one more movie. We're going to talk about Wishmaster, in keeping with our Mark and I educating ourselves on some of the older, well thought of movies. 1997 movie, Wishmaster, directed by Robert Kurtzman, written by Peter Atkins. It stars Tammy Lauren as Alexandra Amberson, Anthony Divoff as the djinn, which is like a genie for those who can't see it written down here. And it's just full of big horror names. Robert Englund, Kane Hodder, Tony Todd, Buck Flowers in there, Ted Raimi. I was surprised to see John Byner, who I remember from his Canadian-made hour-long variety show back in the 70s.
And it was funny. He was he was one of the better Canadian comedy shows, I think.
Yeah, he's American, but the show was made in Toronto, I think.
Yeah.
Back
As was this movie.
Yes, that's right. It was, yeah. Also in it, Chris Lemmon. He plays Nick Merritt, who I think is the love interest for Tammy Lauren's character.
Who directs this?
Robert Kurtzman.
So it's a Wes Craven story, is it?
I don't know.
His name's attached to it. It's Wes Craven's Wishmaster.
Oh, well, he's probably
producer or something?
Producer, yeah.
There was some great effects in this movie.
Yeah.
I loved it. At the very
I see why this became, because I don't know how many sequels there are.
Yeah.
But Wishmaster became a big franchise.
Yeah, and this first movie is a very powerful movie.
It's well done.
I've never seen it before.
Right.
Where this guy's skeleton actually pops out of his body.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. It was so well done. I loved it.
It is. Yeah.
Oh, and it's all got to do with this
genie.
That way back in the Persian history.
Yeah. The movie begins like in the
1127 AD.
12th century, and it's the capture of the evil genie.
Yeah.
Because the rules that the genie lives by, the genies are a third class. You have humans, you have angels, and in between them live the djinn. And the djinn are evil.
Yeah.
They're sort of like demons.
Yep.
And godlike in their powers. And if they grant you wishes, and they want to grant you wishes, the first two wishes you get what you want. The third wish releases all the evil jinns, and that's the end of the world.
Now,
so how do we even know that this happens? Because unless it happened once, how would we know that that's what happens? And nobody's ever made that third wish?
No. The way it works is that the person that wakes the djinn gets the three wishes.
Right.
The djinn wants to collect souls.
Right.
You just have to have one wish, and you owe your soul to that djinn.
Right.
And he can collect it at any time. So,
but if he grants three wishes, that third wish opens the door.
Only the person that resurrects him.
No. It says the third wish opens the door, and all the demons come out and take over the world.
Only the first person that resurrects him has the three wishes. Everyone else he talks to, just one wish and your soul's gone.
Oh, I see. Okay, I see the point you're making. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so, and it's really clever.
So Alexandra Amberson, she's the one who releases him
from the gem.
Ultimately from the gem where he was imprisoned in the 13th century.
Yeah.
Right.
The thing about this movie is that the djinn doesn't have to tell you who he is.
No.
All he wants to do is do something for you.
Yes. But how would you like to?
You have to ask. And he puts it in a way where, you say...
Are you saying you'd like me to do such and such? And if you say, sure, then he's got you.
Yeah, and it's like the monkey paw.
Right.
No matter what you wish for, he finds the worst way of giving it to you.
Yeah.
For instance, at one point, he's talking to a lady at some clothing store.
Right.
And he says, well, wouldn't you want to live forever? You know, never get old. She says, wouldn't you want to wish for that? Right. And she goes, yeah. So he turns her into a mannequin.
That's right. Yeah.
Or, how much money do you want? $1 million. Well, your mother just took a insurance policy out. The plane crashes.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly the same as the monkey's paw.
Yeah.
So it looks good. The acting was fine. It's nice to see all these old hands.
Ted Raimi gets just a cameo at the beginning and at the end, and he's the first one to get killed.
Yes.
Which is really great. In modern times, that is.
He's often the first one to be killed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we're going to wrap this show up, folks. What can we say? The Walking Dead ended on a real strong note, I would say.
Well, I can't say terrific season, but I can say it was well done, and I'm looking forward to next season.
Well, because it ended on a very strong note, I feel that everything they did up to the end was justified. If it had been lukewarm at the end, then I would have said it was a dull season, but it was going somewhere. So I'm just not in that.
No, literally, they were going somewhere.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, absolutely. RoboCop, the new one, it's all right.
It's a good action movie, but it's not as great as the original.
No, and if you haven't seen the original, go see it.
Yeah.
The Den? Yeah, really recommend it. I'm not sure if it's just on pay-per-view, but I think Mark and I both really liked it.
I was reading some other reviews on it, and some people are complaining that it was too simplistic and that it's just another found footage thing. But I thought it was...
I thought it was a good variation on the found. And it isn't this shaky, damn handheld stuff. Drives me crazy.
Yeah, there isn't. And there was a few dark scenes, but not that many.
No.
So I was glad to see that as well.
Yeah. And Wishmaster, 1997
I
movie.
highly recommend it.
Yeah.
I've never seen it before, and I had a real fun time watching it. Yeah. And the thing I really liked about it, the djinn and the lead girl, she did research on him, and she was a smart heroine. Yeah. She was smart. He's trying to trick her. Yeah. She's trying to get away from these three wishes, and she knows that everything she wishes for is going to have some sort of horrible effect. So she's trying to figure a way of beating the djinn. Yeah. And there was some strategy.
Yeah, a nice little chess game.
Yeah, and I enjoyed that portion of it. It's not your just slasher movie. It had some thought behind it.
It did, yes. So we both recommend that. Okay, folks, so we'll be back next week with a special episode. We're going to do a Larry Fessenden retrospective. We'll be talking about half a dozen of
and if you don't know movies. Who he is, go look him up.
Yeah, Larry Fessenden, he's terrific. Going to be having an interview, a print interview with him shortly on The Crypt and also hmpod.com.
Yeah, he's a writer, director, producer.
Editor, musician.
Yes, I noticed that.
Yeah.
Yes.
A star.